let me ask you this. I mean, so you've got the album. What's your take on the current music industry then? Because we'll start with Alan with this one. But I mean, what's your current take on, because we went through that negative period where everyone's saying the music industry's dead, the record industry's dead, and all of that type of thing. It seems to be picking up a little bit now. I've done a lot of studying on this, and certainly, I think it's important that students and people listening to this understand what the artists are thinking about in the way of the current music industry, how they're going to go about doing it, so that
we have. The industry's always there. It's harder than it has been for years. It always is. It'll always be harder because less people buy, more people are streaming, and so there's less money going around, especially for people at the bottom part of it. They're not. So for us, we made the decision to do this ourselves. I mean, we're putting this out ourselves. We're releasing it. As Pete said, we're doing the videos. We're trying to do it, and we're in a bit better position than some people because we do have a name, even though it's not going to sell us millions of records. We still have so it gives us a little bit of a step in, it gives a little bit of a step up with certain things. But, they say people are buying more records and stuff, whatnot, but that's still miles away from what the 90s people buying records. It's gone up in the last few years. CD sales have gone right down. It's all about digital and it's about streaming. Now, for some people, that's good. I'm not a big fan of streaming personally, and we're going to try and avoid it as much as we can. We'll see how it pans out and that. But, but at the end of the streaming is you get paid very little, the artists, for it. Some people are making a lot of money. And yes, it opens it up to people, but if people aren't buying, then that doesn't filter back into the music industry.
The whole streaming thing has really lined the coffers of especially people like Spotify, who I've been told create nearly 50% of the content on their platform themselves in order to devalue all of Spotify's content in their favor. Now that to me, that's gangster behavior. That's payola. That's protectionism. And that cartel needs to be broken. Now, I'm not a strong enough man, and I'm certainly not an influential enough man to start that. But most of us artists, what we can do on the ground, like vegetarianism towards is good for the planet, we can start moving towards just people streaming from us directly, or Patreon, or Bandcamp, or all those places where our work's respected. And the link between us and our audience is established. Not without these middle people who are they're in the pockets of the majors, lining their own coffers, and it has to stop. It's death. Now, if you take away live, which was what we had, our other thing, we had live, and you give us 1,000% for streaming, of which the songwriter gets another fraction, you've just put the boot in. You've really put the boot in, and we're not up for it at all. Alan told me some of the figures he had for his Field of Dreams stuff, and I thought, you know what? I'm quite happy to go with that. We've nothing to lose because we've lost everything anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I actually went over to Midem in France, and part of I was writing one of my books about the music industry, and I went over and I met Spotify, and I challenged Spotify because not only did I have records on Spotify that, one in particular that was almost 1 million plays or streams, and the royalty check was basically $32.
Jesus.
And I couldn't justify that to myself.
No.
And I said, look, how are the other musicians in the world supposed to survive with that current rate? And their answer was pretty simple, was like, look, we are a subscription and people have a choice. They pay us a subscription, and people have this choice of what they decide to listen to. We don't, although we pay a small fraction of what people listen to, obviously the subscription is the cutoff point. And I find music to be one of those, it's interesting because a lot of artists I'm speaking to just now are going a different line, and they're going directly to their fan base and cutting out iTunes and cutting out Amazon and all that.
So it's Patreon then, and Bandcamp, or Spot? Is it SoundCloud?
Yeah, so some of them are using just this direct sales platform. So I just spoke to an artist in America who's made an album, and they had quite a, I mean, I'm not a huge following, but they had maybe 30,000 fans that followed what they were doing. And what he had done was quite clever, because he created just like a website basically, and he said, you buy the CD, the album from me. Mm-hmm. And so when someone bought the purchase from him, he sent them the digital files by email. And although that sounds quite primitive in this day and age, he actually had genuine sales of 23,000 albums by the end of the project, 23,000 something. So he actually made some money, and he didn't charge the usual £10. Because, as he said, and I quite agree with what his logic was, he said, listen, when you go to a clothes shop, the clothes designers and the clothes manufacturers decide the price of the clothes. And except, he said, when it comes to music, iTunes decide the price of the MP3, or Amazon decide the price, and so on and so forth. And you've got this choice bracket of whether it's 39 pence up to 99 pence a download. And that's your choices. Whereas he said, my music's worth more than the usual $10 an album or whatever. He said, so I'm going to charge $40 for my album, because that's what I want to charge. And if the fans want to buy it, they get, and he put in some nice little touches, obviously some nice artwork and various other things that he sent to them, but he charged them $40. And I quite agreed with that, because this industry is about, it's an art form, and really to think that our art is only worth a certain amount of money, and that's all it's worth, is ridiculous.
An artificial construct anyway. I mean, I always say to Alan, if you think how greedy the music industry was when they broke the stranglehold of small record shops and they started putting CDs right next to bubblegum, just past the white goods, they completely fucked the sense of value that music had. I mean, you can't buy a Prada bag from anywhere other than a Prada shop, right? So his sense of value in his album, he's absolutely right. I mean, I'm even thinking now, Alan, we should maybe we should just make the album for sale directly from us. So I mean, I love that idea.